Good afternoon, students. Welcome to Lattice Theory live lecture. Uh, Last class, we have seen about ideals in lattices, also lattice homomorphism. In this class, we will discuss about the relation between ideals and homomorphisms. Okay, so to do that, here we will be this class will be mainly focusing on ideals and relation between homomorphism, and we also see the other one which is called dual ideal. What is meant by dual ideal? Then what is dual homomorphism? All those things you can see. Okay. So yesterday, last class, what we discussed is ideal, then ideal generated by a set H and so on, right? We have seen this. If you take H is any non-empty set, then we have seen this. This is called what? Ideal generated by H, or you can also call it this as the R is also same as the smallest ideal generated by H, the set H. Okay, fine. Now you can define a principal ideal that is you know already from your ring theory and so on. So what is meant by principal ideal? It should be usually generated by a single element, right? So if at all our H is a singleton element, okay, then this H, the ideal generated by H, the ideal generated by H, which is right way like this, is called principal ideal. So basically, principal ideal means it should be generated by a single element, right? So how will that is same as if we want to write the form of sorry. Okay. So if we want to write how we can denote this, this is nothing but all elements x in L such that x is less than or equal to e. Because in last class we have seen that how any element look like here. Some element will be here if and only if it can be written as less than or equal to some elements of this form. Okay, but because here there is only one element in this H, so if some element is here means if some element is here means okay, sorry. So therefore the ideal principal ideal generated by is same as this, because what is the reason? If you remember, any element here, how any element will be here if and only if this I can be written as some h naught join h1 up to hn minus 1, right? So therefore, but this in this case our h is only containing one element, so therefore that has to be less than or equal to that element. That's why some element will be here if and only if x is less than or equal to a. But this also can be written as what we know about if x is less than or equal to a. What is relation between x meet a? What is the value of this x meet a? What can you say about x meet a? Is same as x, right? So yes, so in place of this x we can write x meet a or not. Okay, so it is same as x meet a for every x in L. So what is this principal ideal? How you can understand? Take any element of the lattice and try to meet with a that is an element here. Is this clear? You, if at all any element is less than that, then that is here. So all the elements below to a are in your principal ideal. Is same as saying that you take any element and meet with a that is an element here. Is this clear? Okay. So this is principal ideal, and we also require another definition is called convex. You can call it convex set. Okay. So take L. L is a lattice. Okay. Then suppose J is a subset of L, is said to be convex if whenever A and B are two elements of J, okay, and C is an element of L, such that A is less than or equal to C is less than or equal to B, then C should also be a member of G. Then we say that it is a convex set. Is definition clear? What is meant by convex set? Whenever you have two elements, and if at all is there any element in between them, then that element also should be there here. Okay. For example, you might have know already intervals satisfies this condition. Is this clear? Okay. So example, if you want, you can write as example that if you take A and B in L, okay, then the interval, closed interval you can call it, is a example of convex set. Is this clear? Because if you take interval, then if any element is there in between them, that is also there. Is definition clear? What is meant by convex set? Whenever two elements are there in that set and an element in between them, then that element should be there in that set again. Then we say it is a convex set. Okay. Now we go to the result, which we said that how we can relate ideals and homomorphisms. Okay. So theorem that you take L is a lattice, then the first one you take any I is a proper ideal. So if you want, you start here, I is any subset of, is a subset of L. So it is a subset of, is just a subset. Then that I is a proper ideal if and only if there exists a joint homomorphism, if and only if there exists a joint homomorphism phi, okay, from L onto C2. I will tell here what is C2. C2 is nothing but simply a lattice or a chain with two elements 0 and 1. So we can write that here, notation. Here our C2 is a lattice which is actually a chain with two elements 0 and 1. So it contains only two elements 0 and 1, and it is a chain. Okay. So 0 is the smallest one and 1 is the largest in those two elements. So then I is a proper ideal if and only if there exists a joint homomorphism phi from L onto C2, if and only if such that what is this relation, this there exists a homomorphism phi, this I should be phi inverse of 0. That means your I should be the inverse image of this one. So that is what is your I here. I, how we can write, some x in, it will be in I if phi of x is 0. Is this clear? That is your I. Then the second one is in is for prime ideals, characterization for prime ideals. This I is a prime ideal if and only if there exists a homomorphism phi, okay, from L onto C2 such that I is nothing but phi inverse of 0. So what is difference between these two? That if I is a prime ideal, then there should exist a joint homomorphism, and it is a prime ideal if and only if there exists a homomorphism. That means it should be meet homomorphism as well as joint homomorphism. Is that clear? Is statement clear first of all? So if at all we can have, if at all we can have a joint homomorphism from L onto this C2 such that I is phi inverse of 0, then we will call it that as a proper ideal. And if at all we have a homomorphism, then that ideal will become prime ideal. Is this clear? Okay, so let's prove that. So proofs are not so difficult. What we want to prove, we prove slowly one by one. So start with, suppose take I is a proper ideal. Then we want to show that there exists a homomorphism from L onto C2 satisfying this condition, right? So start with a proper ideal. So let L let I, okay, let I, okay, be a proper ideal of your lattice L. That means I is strictly contained in L. So there exists at least one element from L which is outside. So what is meant by proper ideal? I is strictly contained in L and it is also ideal, right? Now we want to define a homomorphism, joint homomorphism. So define phi from L onto C2 phi. How we have to define in such a way that what should be our phi of I? That means whenever you take an element in I, then what should be phi of that element? It should be 0. Is this clear? See, I is a subset of L. We are defining phi. We are trying to define phi on every element of L. Is this clear? So in particular, we want to know what is phi of element X if X is in particular I. But here how we require? We require phi satisfying this condition. Is this clear? So we want phi of X should be 0 whenever X is in I, right? Are you following what I am saying? Your C2 contains how many elements? C2 contains two elements 0 and 1. Okay, C2 contains two elements 0 and 1. Is that clear? This C2 is having only two elements 0 and 1, right? Now we want to define somehow phi, because if I just define, then you know that okay, you will verify, but we are trying to construct that map phi satisfying the given condition. Somehow we want, what we require, we want phi of X should be 0 whenever X is in I. Is this clear? So the moment we define phi of X is something, whenever X is in I, that value should be 0 or not? That value should be 0, then only we require this. And we also require an onto map. What is meant by an onto? That no element from C2, every element in C2 should have a pre-image, right? C2 contains only 0 and 1. But for 0 we are now already, when we are defining 0, whenever X is in I, we want to define that has to be 0. There is no other option. Okay, so your phi of X we will define, because obviously phi of X will be either 0 or 1 only, because C2 contains two elements 0 and 1. When it will be 0, phi of X will be 0 whenever X belongs to I. This we have to define, because the way we have to define phi such that it should satisfy this condition, right? That means we have to define our phi of X as 0. There is no choice for X belongs to I. And to make sure that it is onto at least some X such that phi of X should be 1. Then what X we will define? Whenever X is in outside I, we will define those value as 1. Let me repeat how we are defining this phi. because simply defining phi and verifying is not at all mathematics. Whether you can able to hear me? Hello? Okay. So we are defining our homomorphism and we will check whether it is joint homomorphism or not. First we are defining some map, and how that map should satisfy condition. It should be I is equal to phi inverse of 0. That means our I should be x such that phi of x is 0. So whenever x is in I, we require phi of x is 0. So therefore we are defining phi of x as 0 whenever x is in I. Now why we are defining 1? Because C2 contains only two elements 0 and 1. But what is the necessary to define this one? Because we also want onto map. That means every element in C2 should have a pre-image. So C2 already we defined for 0. So therefore for 1 you define whenever x is outside I, then phi of x is 1. Okay. Now after defining this, can somebody tell me why phi is onto? Can somebody tell why phi is onto? That means why phi will take 0 as well as 1? Huh? I is given, because so whenever x is in I, definitely phi of x is 0, right? And why x? What is the guarantee that phi of x is equal to 1 for some x? Because your I is proper ideal. This we have to use. This is onto because our I strictly contained in L. This means there exists an x in L such that x is not in I. Okay, so if x is not in I, then by definition phi of x is 1. Okay, is this clear? And clearly I is a non-empty subset, so there exists at least, so you can, if you want to take here I is a non-empty subset, you can start with this. Okay, because I is a non-empty subset, so there exists at least some element which is in I, so phi of x is 0. That proves that phi is onto. Now proving it is a joint homomorphism is not at all difficult. Our claim is phi is joint homomorphism. What is meant by joint homomorphism? That is phi of whenever you take two elements, their join should be same as join of their images we want to show, right? Now phi is defined on, remember phi is defined on L. They need not be always elements of I, right? So there are cases. So let x comma y are in L. We want to prove that this is true for that x and y, right? There may be happen that case 1, this both x and y may be in I, because x and y are in L and I is a subset of L. It may be happen that, so you can write here suppose x and y both are in I. Remember it is not necessary, but whenever x and y are in I, right, and I we assume that I is an ideal. We have started with I be a proper ideal. Because I is an ideal, we know that x join y is in I, because it is an ideal, right? So whenever x join y is in I, what is the value of phi of x, that element? How phi is defined? How our phi is defined? Whenever some element is in I, phi of that element is 0. So therefore phi of x join y is 0. And from here, because x and y are in I, what we will get? Phi of x as well as phi of y is 0, because they are elements of x and y are elements of I. This implies phi of x join phi of y is also 0 join y, which is 0, right? That means in this case we have proved that phi of x join y is same as phi of x join phi of y when x and y are both in I. Okay, but there is another case. It may be possible that one of them is in I, and suppose x is in I, but y is not in I. Then what are the value of phi of x? Because x is in I, what can you say about phi of x? Yes, phi of x is 0. And what is the value of y? Phi of y? Because it is outside this one. Okay, then how can you find out the value of x join y? That is the question. What can you say about x join y? Hmm? X join y. So there is a hmm? What can you say about x join? Huh? Hmm. Why? What is the guarantee? Hmm? Any element below to I, we know that is there, right? Hmm. This one seems like why? Doubt whether it is meet or join. It's a join or not. Fine. So why it is a, you can check here. X is in Y, but uh, this is X join Y is not in I. That we have to check. Yes, correct. So X join Y, then you can guarantee that uh, X join Y is not in I. Why X join Y is not in I? Because if at all X join Y is in I, then I is an ideal. Any element less than that will also be in there, right? Since if X join Y is in I, then as Y is less than X join Y, what we should get? This implies we should get that Y is also in I, which is a contradiction because our Y is not in I. Is this clear? Right? So X join Y is not in I whenever one of the element is not in I. Okay, right? So because X join Y is not in I, what is the value of phi of X join Y? Whenever some element is not in I, it should be 1, right? So therefore phi of 1, which is phi of X join Y, okay, but this is same as, because phi of X is 0 and phi of Y is 1, right? This is nothing but phi of X join phi of Y, because it is 0 join 1, which is 1. Is this clear? So both are equal in this case. Similarly, you can prove it if X is not in I and Y is in I, you have. What is the third case? The third case is, suppose both are, suppose X is also not in I and Y is also not in I. That means both are outside I. Then what can you say about X join Y? What can you say about this X join Y? Huh? Just like what we have seen in this case, right? We can claim that X join Y is not in I. Why X join Y is not in I? If at all X join Y is in I, then X is less than or equal to X join Y. So X should come in I. Is this clear? So whatever argument we have written here, the same argument you can use to show that X join Y is not in I. This implies, what can you say about phi of X? Because all three are not in I. So all those three values are 1. Phi of Y is also 1 and phi of X join Y is also 1, right? That shows that, therefore 1 you can write as phi of X join phi of Y is 1 join 1, which is 1, and that is same as phi of X join Y. So in any three cases we proved that phi is a, therefore phi is a joint homomorphism, right? Right. Now why I is equal to phi inverse of 0? The way we have defined, it has to be in that case, right? We have discussed while defining how we have defined. So start x is in I. We'll show that x is here if and only if x is here, right? So x is in I by this definition if and only if phi of x is 0, right? So x is in I, also x is in I if and only if by definition of phi of x is 0. Is this clear? This is same as saying that x belongs to phi inverse of this element. Are you following? When a phi of x is 0 is same as saying that x is in phi inverse of 0. So therefore I is nothing but this phi inverse of 0. Are you following? It is same as x such that phi of x is equal to 0. That proved in the first point one way, right? Assume that I is a proper ideal, then we prove that there exists a homomorphism. It is a joint homomorphism, not just a homomorphism, it is a joint homomorphism. Now we want to prove the converse. That means what? Suppose assume that conversely, okay, conversely okay. So conversely, suppose there exists joint homomorphism phi, okay, from this L onto C2 such that I is nothing but phi inverse of 0. We don't know how that map is defined, but we know it is a joint homomorphism and inverse image of 0 is I. What we want to show? We want to show that our claim is that our subset, non-empty subset I, the proper ideal. The proper ideal. That means I is not equal to L. Can be I equal to L? If at all I is equal to L, then can this map, whatever is given, is it an onto map? Huh? Because of this onto-ness, what we can claim is that since phi is onto, okay, that means there exists some x in L such that phi of x is 1, because 1 belongs to C2 and that map is onto, so therefore phi of x is 1 for some x in L. Because phi of x is in 1, we know that x cannot be in I, because I is nothing but simply phi inverse of 0. So x is not in I since your I is phi inverse of 0. Are you following? Are you following or not? So x is an element of L, but it is not an element of I. That means I is a proper subset, we proved. Now we want to show that it is an ideal, right? So to show ideal, what we will show? Take any two elements. Start with, let x comma y in B are two elements in I. We want to show that their join is also in I. Remember, we don't know anything about I. How I in this conversely, when we say that I, this I is nothing but phi inverse of 0, right? Okay, so whenever there is an element in I, that means phi of that element is 0. So to show that x join y is in I, what we have to show? If at all we want to show that x join y is I, we want to show that phi of x join y is 0. Is this clear? Right? So phi of x join y, then because phi is a joint homomorphism, what we know is that phi of x join phi of y, but x and y are in I. This implies what we can write? Phi of x is 0 and phi of y is 0. So therefore this is 0 join 0, which is 0. That shows that x join y is in I. So all elements which are going to 0 is nothing but I, right? Right. Now what is the other condition to prove that it is an ideal? Let x is in I and y is in L such that y is less than or equal to x. Then we want to prove that y is also in I. Then it will become ideal. right? Fine. Now, if y is in y less than or equal to x, what can you say about y join x? What is the value of y join x? If y is less than or equal to x, very good, it is x only, right? Then use the homomorphism, join homomorphism. So phi of y join x is same as phi of x, but x is where? X is in I. If x is in I, what is value of phi? Is 0. But because it is a join homomorphism, it is same as phi of y join phi of x, which is equal to 0. But phi of x is again 0. 0, that means phi of y join 0 is same as 0. So we got that phi of y is, so if phi of y is 0, what can you say about y? Y is in element of I, right? So therefore we proved that I is a not only ideal, it is a proper ideal. Whenever there exists a join homomorphism satisfying that condition, then it is a proper ideal. That proves statement 1. Is statement 1 clear? Because statement, if you understand statement 1, then statement 2 is not a difficult one. We want to prove what is statement 2. It is about prime ideals, right? The statement 1 is about any proper ideal need not be prime. So it is a proper ideal if and only if there exists a join homomorphism L onto C2 such that I is the inverse image of 0. Whereas if at all it has to be prime ideal, then that actually homomorphism will become join as well as meet homomorphism. So we have to only check, because for one by one, if it is ideal, we know it is a join homomorphism. So when we take an ideal, prime ideal, if at all we want to show it is a homomorphism, it is enough to prove that it is a meet homomorphism, because already join homomorphism is done. So second one, start with, okay. So we will start with I, a prime ideal. We will show that map, there exists a map which is a homomorphism, right? Okay. So to prove this second one, let I be a prime ideal. Now we started with a prime ideal. We want to show that there exists a homomorphism and so on. Whatever we have defined earlier, same thing you take. Okay. The map phi defined in 1, okay, is now join homomorphism, right? We have to only prove that map is also a meet homomorphism now, right? Now our claim is whenever it is a prime ideal, that map is not only a join homomorphism, it is also a meet homomorphism. Okay. How this is a what is meant by saying meet homomorphism? Take any two elements, let x comma y are two elements of L. We want to show that phi of x meet y is phi of x meet phi of y. So whatever we did in first case, same way, because x and y are in L, it may be happen that both may be in I, one of them may be in I, both may not be in I, right? So same way you can quickly do it here. The case 1 is that suppose x and y both are in I. Then what we know? Phi of x and phi of y, both values are 0. So obviously phi of x meet, okay, phi of y is also. On the other hand, also because x is in I, what we will get is that x meet y is also in I. I is an ideal, right? Because I is an ideal, any element below to that element, since x meet y is less than or equal to x and x is in I, so therefore x meet y is also in I. So if x meet y is in I, then phi of x meet y is again 0. So that shows that in this case it is a meet homomorphism. The other one, suppose x is in I and y is not in I. Okay, y is not in I. Then again how you can conclude? phi of x is 0 and phi of y is 1. So therefore, what is meet of these two? Phi of x meet, phi of y is 0 meet 1. What is 0 meet 1? Is 0, right? 0 meet 1 is 0 or not? Also, what is the, whether x meet y is in I or not? X meet y is in I. This is why this is true. The same reason what we have used earlier. Since x meet y is less than or equal to x, and x is a member of I. X is in I. So therefore, I is an ideal, means x meet y is also in I. That means phi of x meet y is 0, right? In this case also they are equal. Now third case is that x is not in I, as well as y is also not in I. If you remember, so far we have not used anywhere I is a prime ideal, just used as a definition of an ideal, not necessary prime ideal, right? Here we will use the fact, if x is not in I and y is not in I and I is a prime ideal, so what you can guarantee? I is prime, then if two elements are not there, then their meet is also not there or not? By prime ideal, if x is not in I and y is not in I, then their meet is also not in y. Because if this is there, this is the definition of, since I is prime ideal. So here only we are using the definition of prime ideal. We are not using anywhere the definition of prime ideal in this proof, right? So therefore, what can you say about phi of x? Phi of x, phi of y, phi of x meet y, because all three are outside I, these values are 1. That means they also satisfy this meet homomorphism. Therefore, phi they meet homomorphism. That proves the part. Now take the converse part. Conversely, okay. So we will try to prove the converse. What is mean by, suppose assume that there exists phi homomorphism, okay, such that your I is phi inverse of 0. We want to show that I is a prime ideal, but by 1 we know that I is already a proper ideal. So we have to only show that I is a prime ideal, means to show I is prime, let x, okay, not in I and y is also not in I. So we have taken two elements which are outside I. To show that it is a prime ideal, it is enough to prove what? Their meet, x meet y is also outside I. Is this clear? Yes, x meet I is also not in I. If we prove that, then I will become prime ideal, right? How we will show that x meet y is not in I? If we can show that phi of x meet y is not 0, then we are done. Is this clear? Okay. Since x is not in I, x is not in I, this implies what is value of phi of x? Is 1, right? Similarly, y is not in I, therefore phi of y is also 1, right? This implies what is the meet of these two? Phi of x meet, phi of y is 1 meet 1, right? This is same as phi of x meet y, because phi is a, since phi is a meet homomorphism. Is this clear? So I am using the fact that phi is a meet homomorphism. So therefore, phi of x meet phi of y is phi of x meet y. There now the value of x meet y is 1. So therefore, we can guarantee that x meet y is not in I. Are you following? Because whenever x meet y is in I, that value of phi of that value should be 0. But here we are getting 1. That shows that this implies, therefore I is a prime ideal, right? So we have given the characterization of ideals in the form of homomorphism. An ideal is a proper ideal if and only if there exists a joint homomorphism from L onto C2, and when it will be a prime ideal if and only if not only join homomorphism, it is actually a homomorphism, right? This is the one interesting result which gives relation between ideals and homomorphism, right? Now what we see the next one, before that we'll define this dual ideal or dual concept for dual ideal, what is meant by dual principal ideal and so on. If you recall, what is an ideal by definition or this property? I'll write here ideal so that we have already know concept of dual ideal. We can easily, duality we know, so we can write it. So an I is said to be ideal if whenever x and y are in I, then their x join y, or you can call it x meet y, is in I, right? And not only that, if x is in I and y is in L, okay, such that this y is less than or equal to x, then y should be in I. This is clear? This is the definition of an ideal. Now can you define dual property? What is meant by dual ideal? An ideal I, so you take L is a lattice. An ideal I is said to be not ideal. A subset, you can call it I is said to be dual ideal if whenever x and y are in I, then x join y. This should be in I. Okay. And not only this, whenever x is in I and y is in L, such that if at all your y is bigger than or equal to x, that means any element is bigger than that, then y should also be in I. Is this clear? Is definition of dual ideal clear? Dual ideal is simply you have to replace this join and meet and whatever less than or equal to are there, that will be, you will get whatever you are getting, the resulting one is called dual ideal. So to understand dual ideal, whenever some element is there in that ideal, then any element above that will also be there in that dual ideal. Is this clear? Just like how you are understanding here, any element below to that is there in that ideal, right? Now how you can define principal dual ideal? Principal dual ideal, here principal ideal we have denoted by this symbol, right? This is nothing but x such that x is less than or equal to a, or the other way how we have written, the other way is that x intersection x meet a for every x in L, right? Now in the same line, how you can define principal dual ideal? This will be denoted by this notation is also reversed, okay? That shows that some x will be here if x is greater than or equal to, is this clear? Just reverse this relation. But whenever x is greater than a, this is same as what? Your x is greater than a is same as writing x join a or not? Are you following? Right? So we are meeting every element with a, that is your principal ideal. Here joining, and every whenever you meet with this, you get a normal ideal, principal ideal. Is definition clear? Because we are going to relate these two. What is an ideal? An ideal is nothing but how elements look like. You take this A and meet with every element of lattice. Here you take this A and join with every element of lattice, you get principal dual. Is this clear? Fine. Now what is the result which we are going to discuss is relation among this ideals and dual ideals. Okay. Statement. Theorem that start with let I be an ideal and we call it suppose D. be a dual ideal. Dual ideal. Of course, you have a lattice, L is given to you, and so on, right? So now, if at all they have some element, if I intersection D is non-empty, that means whenever they have some element which is common, then this I intersection D, the convex sublattice. And not only this, and this one, if you take any convex sublattice, it should be of this form only and unique form. That means if you take any convex sublattice, then it can be written as it will be written as I intersection D, where I is ideal and D is dual ideal. Is this clear? And any convex sublattice is of this form in only one way. That means only of this kind. You cannot express even uniquely. You can say that it can be written in this form of uniqueness. You cannot write even in more than one form, right? So let me first understand this statement. What are all we are using here? Suppose you have a ideal and you have a dual ideal I and D. If their intersection is non-empty, then that intersection is not it is actually a convex sublattice, and any convex sublattice if you take in that lattice, it is of this form in only one form, right? Fine. Is statement clear? Is statement clear or not? Hello? Hello? Is statement clear what we are relating? We are relating ideal and dual ideal, right? Okay, so the first part, suppose I intersection D is non-empty. Yeah, not really. Suppose I intersection D is non-empty. We want to show that I intersection D is a convex sublattice. It is very simple. You can show it is easily, right? That I intersection D is convex. What is meant by convex? We have defined at the beginning of this set lecture. Take two elements. Let A comma B belongs to this I intersection D, and suppose C belongs to your L lattice, such that what should be the relation? A is less than C is less than or equal to B. Now what we have to show? We have taken two elements and we have taken some element in between them. We want to show that that is also there. C should be in I intersection D, right? So we will show that C belongs to I intersection, right? That means we want to show that C is in I as well as C is in D, right? How we can guarantee that C is in I? By using the fact that I is an ideal and D is dual ideal, right? So A is in I, and use this fact and use this fact, right? See, A is less than or equal to C and C is less than or equal to B, right? So how we will show that C is in I? A is less than or equal to C and A is in D, because A is there in I as well as in D. This implies what we can claim about C? C is in D or not? Why C is in D? Because D is dual ideal. So what is meant by dual ideal? If we have any element in that ideal, dual ideal, then any element bigger than that is also in that. Is this clear? So we got that C is in D. Similarly, you take C is less than or equal to B and B is in I. B is in I or not? here B is in I. That shows that as I is an ideal and any element below to that, it should be there in that. Therefore, C should be in I. So therefore, C is in D as well as C is in I. That shows that C is in I intersection D. This means I intersection D is convex, right? So proving convex is not at all a difficult one. It is very basic thing. What we want to show is that this I intersection D, any convex subset, any convex sublattice is of this form I intersection D, where I is some ideal and D is some dual ideal, right? That we will prove. So let we call it, suppose C be a convex sublattice. Then for this C, somehow we have to show that. So we have to show C is equal to I intersection D for some ideal I and dual ideal D. Is this clear? If we can show this, and of course we will show that this representation is unique representation. First we will show this much. So how we can take I and D so that I will become an ideal, D will become a proper ideal. From if any set is given, then we know that there is always an ideal, the smallest ideal generated by that and so on, right? So what you have to take here is take I is this one. That means the smallest ideal generated by C, and similarly what should be your dual ideal? This one. Is this clear? Take I as this and D is this. Then you can easily check that which one will be contained in the other. C is contained in I as well as C is contained in D. So C is contained in I intersection D. This is obvious because C is here as well as C is also here. So therefore C is contained, right? These are the smallest ideals containing that one. Are you following? Yes. So therefore C is also contained in I intersection D. We want to show that C is actually equal to I intersection D. So start with, let A belongs to I intersection D. This means A is in I as well as A is in D. We use this somewhere. Now A is in I, okay, but your I is the ideal generated by this, right? You can see here. This shows that by the result which we have proved, when an element will be here, if and only if there exists some element from here such that A is less than or equal to C. So you can call it, there exists some element, call it some alpha in C, such that this element is less than or equal to that, such that A is less than or equal to alpha. This is the definition of this smallest subset, right? Similarly, A is in D, but this is the dual one. This implies there exists some beta in C again, right? Such that this A is greater than or equal to beta, because it is the ideal above that, right? Now if you combine these two, what we'll get? Therefore beta is bigger than or equal to A and A is less than or equal to alpha, where alpha and beta are in C. Now using the fact that C is, now as C is convex, okay, and you have two elements and an intermediate element in between them, so therefore you get that A is in C. So to prove that A, we started A in I intersection D and we prove that A is in C. So therefore we get that this C is nothing but I intersection D, right? Now to prove the uniqueness, we require that whatever I said earlier, uniqueness. So what is meant by uniqueness? So let's call it C also can be written as the form I1 intersection D1, right? Where I1 is an ideal and D1 is a dual ideal. Then somehow we want to show that I is I1 and D is D1, right? Where where I1 is an ideal and D1 is dual ideal. Okay. Somehow we have to show that I is contained in I1, I is equal to I1 and D is equal to D1. Once we prove it for I is equal to I1, then same thing will work for dual because of dual property, right? So our claim is I is equal to I1, right? Remember our I is the ideal, smallest ideal generated by C, right? I1 is an ideal, right? And C is contained in I1. What is the relation between this? C is I1 intersection D1. So as C is I1 intersection D1, this is smallest. So therefore, C is contained in I1 because it is intersection of these two. Obviously, intersection is contained in both of those sets. So I1 is an ideal containing C, but this I, what we know about I, as I is the smallest ideal containing C. What is the relation between I1 and I? This I1 is an ideal containing C. I is also ideal containing C, but I is the smallest ideal. So therefore, what we'll get is that I is contained in I1. I repeat again, I1 is an ideal containing C, and I is the smallest ideal containing C. Therefore, I is contained in I1, right? To start with, to prove I1 is contained in I, let A is in I1. Okay, we are taking A is in I1. Somehow we want to show that A is also in I, right? Now, if A is in I1 and we want to show that A is in I, and how we will come to know that A is in I is using the fact. Okay, so now you start here that whatever discussed earlier, let's see be an, or you can call it D, suppose. Let D be an arbitrary element of your convex subset C, right? Then we have to use this thing. D is an element of C, so therefore D is an element of I also, and D is an element of this. D is in I, right? And D is also, okay, this implies D is in C, which is same as I intersection D, right? So therefore D is in I as well as D is in D also, right? Okay. Then because D is a dual ideal, what can you say about A join D? Because A join D is greater than or equal to D. Since A join D is greater than or equal to D, right? And D is a dual ideal. This implies A join D belongs to D or not? Because D is a dual ideal, so any element above that, those are also here, right? Okay. D is any arbitrary element of C. Also, D is in C, but which is same as I1 intersection D1, right? This implies D is in I1, right? If D is in I1 and this A is also in I1, okay? This A is, D is in I1. Okay. So D is in I1, right? And D is also in I1. A is also in I1. Therefore, I1 is an ideal. Now, as I1 is an ideal, implies A join D is in I1, right? So A join D is in I1, that we got, and A join D I1. We want to, if we can show that A join D is in D1, can A join B is in D1? A join D here is, I use this, okay, then A join D is bigger than D1, so therefore A join, this is here. Okay, so we are taking only I1 intersection D1. So A join D is in greater than D, but D is in D1, so therefore A join D is in D1. And here we prove that A join D is in I1. This implies A join D is in I1 intersection D1, which is same as C, right? So we prove that A join D is in C. A join D is in C. Now we'll show that A join C. Yes, yes, yes. We are right. So we are on track. So since A join D belongs to C, and and we know that A is less than or equal to A join D, right? This implies we can say that A belongs to the ideal generated by C, because any element here, when some element will be here, if and only if it is less than or equal to some element of that set, right? But this is nothing but your I. Therefore we prove that A belongs to I, and we started with A is in I1. Here you can see that A is in I1, then we prove that A is in I. Therefore your I is same as I1, and similarly D will be same as D1. Therefore your I intersection D is same as I1 intersection D1. This similarity is true by duality. Okay, this is true by duality. That shows that representation is, therefore the representation is unique. Okay, fine. So we'll stop here, and other properties we'll see in next class.